Bobby Burns, what year did you go into the Marine Corps?
October 1951.
October 1951. And why did you go into the Marine Corps?
I just wanted to join the service.
Yeah? Now, of course, in 1951, the Korean War is going.
Yes.
Were you interested in going to Korea?
Well, I knew I would go.
As a Marine?
As a Marine, I knew if I enlisted, that's where I would wind up.
Yeah. And so you went into the Marines knowing you're probably going to go to Korea.
I knew it, yeah.
Yeah. Where did you do your basic training?
Camp Pendleton?
California.
Yes.
That's not going to get you ready for the Korean cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you arrive in Korea? Roughly.
July of 53.
July of 53.
No. Earlier than that.
Yeah, because the war is over in July 53, right? Or the armistice.
June. Yeah, I was there in 52.
In 52.
And 53.
Okay, so you arrived in 1952.
Yeah.
And did you go into Busan or Seoul? Where did you go in?
Seoul.
You went into Seoul. What did Seoul look like when you first got to Seoul?
Bombed.
Just destroyed? Do you know what Seoul looks like today?
I'm sorry?
Do you know what Seoul looks like today?
Yeah, I've seen some pictures.
Can you believe what it looks like
Industrial.
today?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you remember what Seoul looked like in 1952, did you ever think that South Korea would become an economic powerhouse in the world?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So describe Seoul. What are some of the words that you would use to describe what Seoul looked like in 1952?
Chaos. Everything was blown just about apart.
Yeah. Poverty?
Yeah. Yeah, little bitty kids running along the railroad tracks and the trucks begging for food.
Did you ever give them food?
I gave them what I had.
Yeah. What did you have? Were they?
Just chocolates.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're a Marine in 1952. The war is still on.
Yes.
Did you see combat operations?
Yes.
In what part of Korea did you see combat operations? Roughly, are there towns that come to mind?
I don't know the exact name, but I was on Bunker Hill.
Bunker Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a big battle.
Were you fighting mainly Chinese at that point?
Yes.
Yeah. So when I say the Battle of Bunker Hill, what kind of things come to your mind?
We would go up and take the hill one day, and they'd come back next day and take it. It was just back and forth for a while.
When you read about the Korean War, you hear combat veterans talk about the Korean War, they'll sometimes talk about the Chinese bugles.
Yeah.
If you heard a Chinese bugle at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, what did that mean?
They're charging.
They're coming. Big numbers.
Yeah.
This sort of wave attacks? Would
Yeah.
they just come in big numbers at you?
Yes.
In combat, how close did you ever get to the enemy in combat?
20 feet.
Wow. And was that one of those I shoot him or he shoots me situations?
Yes.
How many times did that happen?
Let's see, I was up there about 4 or 5 times.
Where you had that kind of combat?
Yes.
Very close combat. Wow. Were you in Korea for a year?
No.
How long were you there?
Probably about 6 or 7 months.
Of that 6 or 7 months, how much of it would you say was either in combat or very close to combat?
I'd say 75% was combat.
Wow. And what was your particular job in the Marine Corps?
I was a BAR man.
Browning automatic rifle?
Yes.
How many bullets could a BAR shoot in a minute, roughly?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's been about 70 years.
It's been a long time. So it has been a long time from the war, and so there are details you don't remember. But are some memories of the war still very vivid for you?
Yes, they are.
Can you tell us one? Is there a particular memory that's very vivid for you?
A buddy of mine was on the phone
Yeah.
calling in for incoming weapon message.
Incoming mortars, maybe? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he got shot in his hand. He blew his hand off while he was on the phone.
Wow. Wow. And he lost his hand?
Yeah.
And you had Navy corpsmen with you?
Yes, it was close by.
Yeah. The Marines always speak very highly of the Navy corpsmen.
They're really great.
Yeah. Do you remember his name, that Marine who lost his hand?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Bishop, I think, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Is there another vivid memory?
Well, when we was on Bunker Hill, the lieutenant called me and another guy out of our foxholes to go down to the bottom of the hill and get a Marine that had been shot and bring him back up to on top of the hill. And we were evacuating too at the same time. And this other guy and I, we got him on a stretcher, and we dropped him about 3 or 4 times before we got him up on top of the hill. And we carried him back to the rear aid station, and when we laid him down, his helmet fell off and half of his head was in it.
Oh my gosh. So he was dead when you picked him up?
Yes.
But you just wanted to make sure that...
We didn't know it.
And you dropped his body as you were bringing him back because you were tripping over rocks and things like that, or?
Side of a hill.
So you were slipping on the hill.
Yeah.
And then when you set the stretcher down, his helmet fell off and half of his head fell off with the helmet.
Yes.
So those sort of memories never leave you.
I'll never forget that.
How do you, here we are, as you said, 70 years later, and you're describing that, and you say, I'll never forget it. How do you respond to that in the moment? 10 minutes later?
10 minutes later?
20 minutes later, how do you respond to a sight like that? How do you deal with a sight like that?
You don't, you just live with it.
You just keep going. Yeah.
You're
Wow.
trained to just forget about it, go on.
Yeah. Is that really possible?
No, it's not forget about it. But you can pick yourself up and go on.
Yeah.
But you'll never forget it.
I can imagine. When you came home from the war, how long did you serve in the Marine Corps?
4 years.
So you're out of the Marine Corps, and now you're back in American society in the mid-1950s, or latter 1950s. Were you able to kind of put the war away, or was it always with you?
You never put it all away, but you can live with it.
What was your method of living with it? How did you do that?
I just stay around buddies, and I didn't talk about it, and I didn't think about it no more than I had to.
Talking about it with me now, how does that make you feel now?
I get anxious over it.
Yeah. Well, so I'm very grateful that you're willing to do it, because there are a lot of books about the Korean War,
Yeah.
but there's only one Marine named Bobby Burns who's at the Battle of Bunker Hill.
Yeah.
And you have your particular story and your particular memories, and that's why this is so important. Some years ago, the government of South Korea put out a book, and it's over there on the shelf, is that right? I thought I recognized it over there. The government of, I just want to show you this photograph that is in the book that I'm sure you've seen. And that's Seoul at night.
Yeah.
When you see that picture of Seoul, South Korea in the early 2000s, I mean, that's incredible, isn't it?
It sure is. When I was there, it was ravaged, just blown apart.
And have you been back to Korea?
No.
Have you heard that when veterans of the war go back to Korea, they're treated like royalty?
I know.
Yeah.
I was at Noah's Ark up in Kentucky,
Yeah.
and I was on my scooter and I had my Korean cap on,
Yeah.
and this family from Korea was there, and they couldn't hug me enough.
Wow. How did that, what impact did that have on you at that time?
I was proud.
Yeah. South Korea is the 11th strongest economy in the world,
I know.
and you helped to make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Korea is sometimes referred to as the Forgotten War. It comes in between huge World War II and controversial Vietnam.
Yeah.
But when you look back on Korea, do you feel like, you described these very hard experiences, and I'm sure you could tell many, many more stories of terrible combat. But as you look back on that war, and you look at South Korea today, and you see what a prosperous and thriving democracy South Korea is today, do you feel like the fight in South Korea was worth it?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and you're proud you served. Yeah.
The people were so appreciative for America, and that makes me feel good.
Yeah. Did you feel that at the time in South Korea? Did people in South Korea at the time seem to appreciate it?
I'm sorry?
Did people in South Korea at that time in 1952, 1953, did they seem to appreciate
Yes, they
the
did.
American effort then?
Yes.
They did, yeah. So you're with the U.S. Marine Corps, but of course the war in South Korea was a United Nations war, and so there are a lot of other countries with the United States in South Korea. Did you ever interact with any of our allies?
The Canadians was on one side of us,
Yeah,
up on the front line. Canadians were strung out on this hill on our right,
yeah,
and there was another, Australia, I think, was on our left.
wow,
And
yeah,
then all these American Marines was in the middle there.
yeah. Did you have much interaction with the Canadians or with the Australians?
They got a case of beer free.
And the Marines didn't?
No,
Seemed a little unfair, huh?
but they'd give us some. The Canadians had got whiskey, yeah, and Australia had got the beer.
And what did you get?
We didn't get nothing, just what we could get from them.
When it comes to combat, were the Canadians good fighters?
Yeah,
Yeah. How about the Australians?
they were good too.
Yeah. Which was better, the Canadians or the Australians?
I say the Canadians.
Yeah. Were the Canadians as good as the Marines?
Yeah,
Really? Oh, I thought a Marine certainly would say no way.
well, the Marines are the best, I believe, but
Yeah.
the Canadians would be par with them.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Burns, I really appreciate you taking the time
Okay.
to talk with me. Thank you very much.
Hope I helped.
You did. Thank you.